Good afternoon. It's good afternoon to some and good evening to others. You're joining us from across the world today, and we're very pleased to have you in the room with us. Congratulations. We're looking forward to seeing you all on campus very soon. Now that you've accepted your Office of Admissions, we know that you probably have many questions about what the academic year is going to look like for you. Some of you are concerned about visas. Some of you have questions about moving in, about vaccinations, about what your choices might be in this coming year. So we thought it would be a good idea for some of us from around Stanford to come together in a room to hear some of your questions and hopefully give you some answers and help you to make some decisions. So let me introduce those of us who are here from Stanford, and I will start off with myself and my colleagues from my office. I am Shalini Bhutani. I am the director of the Bechtel International Center. I'm joined here by Elsa Gontram. Say hi, Elsa.
Hi, everyone.
Elsa is our associate dean and associate director. And Junko. Hey, Junko, say hi.
Hi. Hi.
Junko is our senior immigration advisor. You probably know Bechtel at this time as the center that issues your visa documents and answers your immigration related questions. But I do hope that once you get to Stanford, you will consider us as a home away from home and join us for the many programs and activities that we offer to you. I'm now going to turn it over to Edith to introduce herself and some of the other people in the room with us today.
Thank you,
Edith,
Shalini.
take it away.
Thank you, Shalini. Hello, everyone. My name is Edith Wu. I work in the Office of Academic Advising with some of my colleagues here, and we oversee the Approaching Stanford process and new student orientation. So if you started checking your Stanford email this week, we're the folks behind those emails, the Approaching Stanford Handbook, the Canvas site, and the ones answering the phone and the email helplines. So here today is Diana Subek, and if you call in, you would have the great fortune of getting to chat with Diana, who is always fun over the phone. And then also Warren Chang is here. He's our senior director for the first year experience. And Warren knows a lot around policies, processes, and can answer a lot of our general questions as well. And then here today to speak to you is Laura Tomei here with Academic Advising. She's an associate with advising, and it'll be great. We thought it was really important that you have a chance to talk with an academic advisor and understand what these options are that are presented to you and how we normally advise our entering first year students so that you have a good understanding there. So I'm gonna let Laura talk first about the options for international students who think it might be challenging to arrive to campus by September in time for a new student orientation. But we can also answer a lot of general questions. We've been talking with our partners across campus along with our colleagues here in Bechtel and asking them all the same questions that you're asking us. So we were asking about early arrival, around the vaccination plan, how housing will work, whether families can come to campus. And these are all things that we are working out and hope to have answers to really soon. But I think most pressing, that most urgent issue is just what remote enrollment might look like if you think that you need to take that option. So I'm gonna turn the mic over to Laura so she can talk with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Tomei, as Edith said, and welcome to Stanford, even though it's virtual. It's a pleasure to be able to talk with all the incoming Frosh, or as many incoming Frosh as possible. And for those of you who are celebrating Ramadan today, I wish you all a Eid Mubarak. I know it's a feast today, so hopefully, if you are if you are celebrating, you've had a good day doing that. So today I wanted to, I know that there's a lot of options for those of you who might be coming from different locations that could be challenging to obtain a visa in time for arrival in September for NSO and for enrolling in person. And I wanted to make sure that you understood or were aware of the options that you might have in terms of online or virtual enrollment versus other considerations that you might want to think about as you make those decisions. So there are, as you can imagine, if you can get your visa and be here, we would love to welcome you in person. But if you are not able to and you are considering a virtual option, I wanted to make sure that you're all aware that that option could have some limited choices in terms, or would have, not could, would have limited choices in terms of what courses are available for online enrollment. So, typically for an incoming undergraduate Frosh, we really encourage in academic advising the opportunity to explore as many disciplines as possible, to sit in on or to take classes that might stretch your understanding of what disciplines are, to take some introductory seminars, things like that. However, unfortunately, due to the online nature or the limited online nature for next quarter, those options will be fairly limited. So what we will be able to offer online are a very small slice of what the Stanford curriculum would offer you in person. So there will be classes that are introductory STEM classes. We're still working out which ones exactly, but the large introductory science and math, etc. classes will likely be on offer, but we don't know exactly which ones, but typically there will be the beginning classes, the intro classes. In addition to that, the program of writing and rhetoric will be offering some sections for remote learning as well. And that's pretty much the extent of the curricular options that you will have in front of you as a virtual student in the fall. Also, an expectation with the enrollment as a virtual student in the fall is that we hope and we would want you to know that you need to come back or to not come back, to come to campus in the winter, and the expectation would be that you can make it to winter in person, and there will so that's one option, is the online limited version of what an in-person experience would be like if you were able to come to campus. The other option that I want you to think about and to consider is, as you're thinking about or weighing whether or not it's in your interest to take classes online rather than waiting to come in person, is to consider taking what we call here at Stanford, and we call in the US, a gap year, which is a year between high school and coming to college. And I wanted to assure you all that this is an option that is not just it's not a bad option, I should say. It's actually an option that we often encourage many students, whether they are domestic, whether they are international, wherever they are coming from, as a way to stop and think about college, to consider what you want to do in college, to take that year to gain some very useful experiences. And in our case, in this case, this year in particular to kind of wait and see when you could come safely to the US and come come to campus to experience the full extent. One thing about a gap year, and I was an international student a million years ago, but one of the things about a gap year that I know I did not understand way back then, and I think it's such a foreign thing for, at least for my culture, to take time off and to be like, well, you got into college. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you going? And one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that the gap year is actually a good thing. And a gap year does not mean that you are forfeiting your admission to campus. In fact, you are still a student. You would be still a student. You will be welcomed back the following year. There is no need to reapply. There would be no need to submit all that paperwork that you already have submitted. You are guaranteed admission for the following year. So as you're weighing those options and thinking about what you want to, what you may want to do next year, just bear that in mind. Taking a gap year does not mean whatsoever that you are turning your back away from Stanford, or Stanford is turning its back away from you. You will be always welcome back. So I will pause here and see if there are questions. I'm sure there are many questions about what I just went over.
Okay, yeah, we do have a one question actually. By when do students need to decide whether they are going to take a gap year or not?
I believe the date is July 1st.
Okay. And if they find out that they are not able to get a visa, can they ask for a gap year in the coming month? Well, I guess it's possible if it's July.
I believe yes, and please, those of you that know the policy a little bit better than I do, I believe that yes, you can.
I would also say the admission office, they're very understanding. So the best thing to do is to contact your admission officer, let them know your circumstances. And they look at everything, I would say, individually on an individual basis. Mm-hmm.
There is a question regarding the I-20. Is it possible for Bechtel to send a digital I-20?
So it is possible for us to send a digital I-20. And if you have a quickly approaching embassy or consulate appointment, let us know. But we're asking our students this year to not ask us for that initially, because we're very busy processing I-20s and sending you the SEVIS number. And with the SEVIS number, which we'll send you by email, you can pay your SEVIS fee and make your appointment at the consulate or embassy. And then we're sending you a hard copy I-20 through FedEx. And you will get that hard copy, sign it and scan it, and you can make your own PDF of your I-20. So we're asking students not to ask us that initially, because it's one more step for us. And we're trying to process I-20s really quickly this year, because we know that appointments at embassies and consulates are in short supply. And we ask for your understanding and waiting just a few days for that hard copy to arrive where you can make the PDF yourself.
Great. When should the international students start arriving on campus? I guess it's about moving in day.
Yeah, so we're very close to setting our move-in schedule, and we are anticipating that International Student Orientation ISO would start September 11th. And that would be your arrival to Stanford, and you would move in directly to your dorm room. We are also talking with them about early arrival for students who need to get the COVID vaccine. And so what we're hoping is that you would be able to arrive the very beginning of September, or possibly even the end of August, and come into campus and do that quarantine, travel quarantine on campus, and also get your first vaccination shot. So that's what we're hoping, and we just need to work out details and logistics, and we hope to be able to share those finalized details soon.
All right. So this student is asking, being an Indian student, my high school examinations have not yet been conducted. In absence of high school marks by July, August, can I apply for a gap year?
I believe the answer is yes, right? Right, Edith? Yes.
Right. I believe if you've been admitted, then anyone who's been admitted should be able to take that gap year. Mhm.
All right. How easy for international students to take a leave of absence after a year half, for example? So I guess middle of the year. Are there any limitations?
So
It could be a case.
But
go ahead, Laura.
No, I was just going to say it's a case by case basis, but it shouldn't be difficult. If a student needs to take a leave of absence, they should be able to.
and then for visa purposes, it is fairly easy, but while students are taking leave of absence, they will need to remain outside the country. So you cannot remain in the US. All right. Is there any exception for a gap year request after July 1st?
I think if you have an individual situation, just talk to your admission officer. But I would imagine that if you have a good reason, that they would approve that. So I can't guarantee that because we're not from that office, but from what we've seen in past years, they're very understanding. So I think the best thing to do is that if you are considering this, talk to them and let them know so that they're aware.
All right. So this question is about vaccination. What types of vaccination does Stanford acknowledge at this moment? The student is from China.
Yeah, that's what Stanford is working out. Their guidance right now is for everyone to get the vaccinations that are available to you in whatever country you're at. So what they're expecting is that over the course of the summer, they may be able to approve or that more vaccines would be eligible. And so that's something that they're processing, but the guidance, and they should be sending something out to students very soon, but the guidance is to get whatever vaccine that you can as soon as you can.
This one is really specific to this student's case, but filling the I-20 request form, the student says he will or she will not take part in any of the summer activities. However, I'm actually now considering taking part. Is there any way it's going to affect my visa application? And is it also open to international students?
So by summer activities, I assume you're referring to summer session, which is the only real summer activity going on for an incoming Frosh that would be available, or incoming Frosh would be eligible for. And summer session is entirely online this year. So I would say that is a part of the application that doesn't really apply for this particular summer. So I'm assuming this is what you're referring to by summer activities, but we do expect you here as a Frosh on September 11th, as Edith said, and you are eligible to enter the country 30 days ahead of your September 20th start date. We can't provide housing until later, but you are eligible to enter on August 21st.
Right. There are more questions about vaccine. One of the questions that the student is asking is, what will Stanford arrange? What are the arrangements for students, international students, logistically and financially? Are there any plan for accommodation between for these shots?
So my understanding is you're asking if you arrive early to campus for your first shot, and then can you stay on campus until you have your right. So here is how I think it is at this point. What we're hoping is that for students who are unable to get a vaccine in their country, that you arrive early to campus. You know, I'm going to say beginning of September, and that's an approximate date. And that you would be able to do, you know, about 10 days of a quarantine before ISO begins September 11th. And that way you're able to participate in in-person activities. What that means is you would arrive early and begin getting regular COVID tests as a student who's not vaccinated. And that's, that would allow you to participate in in-person programs. And then hopefully upon arrival, you know, that first day or so, you're able to get your first vaccine shot, whether it's the 1-dose Johnson & Johnson or you need a 2-dose cycle. You would continue to live on campus. So you don't need to be separated away from other students for that whole period until your vaccine is fully effective 2 weeks after. Does that make sense? As long as you're testing regularly, you can, you don't need to be fully, have that full 2 weeks after your final dose of the shot.
All right.
And so we will also be accepting exceptions or exemptions, requests for exemptions for medical and health reasons. And so for those students who will not be vaccinated at all, they'll also go through a regular testing schedule on campus for the year.
Great. Is there a list of courses for the remote quarter? So the online courses, would that be available for students?
It should be available. We're working on it. All of the classes for next year are not up yet. Typically, they are up on August 1st for everything, whether they are remote or in person. So stay tuned. But the likelihood of having, more courses than the ones that I outlined earlier is fairly low. So if you're interested in taking humanities, for example, or taking intro social science courses, things like that, those will be limited if available at all. But there will be a list. I mean, the course catalog, quote unquote, explore courses will be live on sometime in August, early August, on August 1st, and they should have the lists there.
All right. Couple of students are asking if it is possible to take 2 quarters online.
My understanding actually is that only fall quarter would be online. The only option to stay abroad in winter for now, and this has been the thing for 2020, 2021, and I think for 2022, for now, all we can say is only fall is planned to have some component of it to be online. We're assuming and we're hoping that winter and spring will be fully in person.
Great. Shalini or Elsa, can you mention about the time frame that students can arrive on campus or to the US, the earliest and the latest?
Shalini, do you want to take it or do you want?
I can start and you can jump in, Elsa.
Okay.
So so you have to think about it from Stanford's perspective and also from the immigration perspective. From the immigration perspective, we need you, if you're going to be here for the fall quarter, to arrive no later than October 1. That may not match Stanford's requirements. And they might need you to be here earlier for the start of classes. So October 1 is the latest date for immigration purposes. Elsa, what am I leaving out?
No, I think, if you do arrive later than ISO and NSO, we do need to know about it. So I think you should be in communication with approaching Stanford. Is that right, Diana? About a late arrival, and we should know about your late arrival too. If you're going to be here past September 11th, if you're not going to be able to arrive on campus by that date, you really have to keep us in the loop about when you're going to arrive. I would say that we often get a lot of close calls recently because of the COVID emergency, with people trying to make it here by, the very end of September. But just beware that sometimes appointments get canceled at embassies, and that can really throw people's schedules off. And I would just urge you to try to be resilient and flexible. If this happens, the world will not come to an end. You can always come and either enroll remotely for the fall and then enter in winter, or you can decide another option. So just remember, your life does not hang in the balance with being able to get here in the fall. There's lots of other opportunities and options for you. We just want you to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to add that if for any reason you have your I-20 with a September 20th start date and cannot arrive here in time, and you plan to arrive for winter quarter, you should let us know, because then we will issue a new I-20 for you that you can use upon entry to the US. So let us know what your plans are.
But we
as
want,
they do.
yeah, Edith, we want them to know that in order to be eligible for a winter arrival in the US, they have to be enrolled remotely for fall, right? You
Mhm.
can't take a leave of absence for fall and then
Right.
just arrive for winter quarter. You have, in order to be eligible for that start date, you have to be enrolled for fall.
Right, right. Stanford's policy is that all our new incoming undergraduate students need to, their first quarter needs to be that fall quarter. And that piece around letting us know if you won't be able to arrive by September 11th is really important, because all our new students have an enrollment hold on their account. And so you won't be able to enroll in classes until we lift that hold. And especially for international students, if we're expecting you to be here on campus, that hold won't be lifted until you're physically here, and that's been confirmed. So if you're arriving, maybe the first or second day of the quarter, we do need to get you enrolled. So there's some logistics to work out, but it's most important that we know your situation. Yeah.
Right. We are getting a lot of questions about vaccinations.
Mhm.
As we
Yeah.
expected.
Let me just say off the bat, Stanford's Vaden Health Center knows that there are a lot of questions around vaccinations. The university has just created this new requirement for all of our students, staff, and faculty as well. So graduate students, undergrads, continuing students, they're all trying to understand and figure this out. And so there is a large communication that's coming out from Vaden that should include some FAQs. So we are expecting, we had actually hoped that this communication would be sent last week so that we'd be able to give it to you this week. But we're waiting for that any day, and that should answer a lot of your questions. I think in general, what I want to say is Vaden understands a lot of challenges, especially with our international students. And so there is a July 23rd deadline to submit your health forms and try to get all your vaccinations by then. But they're creating some help tickets so that for you in individual situations, you'll be able to submit your circumstances and say, I'm going to need a vaccination when I arrive. I'd like to request a medical exemption. I have these questions. And you can list your questions, and the medical center staff will be able to answer those for you. I know there's some questions around what if you get a vaccine in your home country and that ends up not being accepted. Should you get another dose so soon after your arrival? Those are really good questions, and I anticipate that Vaden's going to answer that and provide some guidance. We will have some students who are unvaccinated on campus, and so as I mentioned, there is a testing schedule. So perhaps they'll allow a window of time before you would get a vaccine in the US, or perhaps in that window of time, the vaccine that you received becomes approved. So those are all things that we're waiting to hear about. So I just wanted to say, I know you have a lot of questions, and we'll answer what we can at this point, but also to expect a lot more from Vaden directly in the coming days. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Junko.
No, thank you, Edith. Is it possible for Bechtel to send I-20 to the embassy prior to making an appointment?
So we never send I-20s for students directly to an embassy unless the embassy asks us specifically to do that. And there are cases every now and then where that happens. So no, we will be sending the I-20 to you.
All right. Is it possible to stay in the US during the summer? I'm on F1 visa. Maybe this student is a transfer student from high school. I don't know.
Yeah. You want to answer that, Junko?
Sure. If you receive as transfer students, then yes, you can remain in the US. If you haven't been in the US and you haven't been studying in the US prior to coming to Stanford, then you will need to wait at least 30 days before the program start date to enter the US.
Perhaps this question is also looking forward and saying, next summer, can I stay on campus? I mean, you can remain in the United States, but you cannot stay on campus. So no campus housing is available, right? Edith, or is anything going to change, do you know, for international students?
You know, I don't know that we have said anything about next summer. If we are planning an in-person fall, winter, and spring, I would anticipate that next summer would go back to the kind of summers we've had before, where summer housing is open to all students, regardless of whether they enroll or not. So it is typical for a lot of students who have internships or jobs or research in the area for the summer to live on campus and have summer housing. And that's what I expect. But Lara, do you know any more?
No, that's what I was going to say, is that if we are going back to the summers, not like this summer, but previous summers, definitely international students have been able to stay on campus and live in housing. But it's also contingent on hearing from housing. But I would assume that we are going back to what Edith described as open housing for everyone.
All right. So this student's mentioning that the visa interview appointments are already late fall. Do you have any positive experience when a visa support letter from Stanford helped convince the consulate to move the appointment date to earlier date?
So we do have a positive experience in most cases, but not all. So this is not a guarantee that you're going to get an earlier appointment. But it's our best shot at trying to make that happen. So what I would ask students who have made appointments that are past the start date of September 20th, please send me either to egontram@stanford.edu or to new_international_students@stanford.edu. Please send me the confirmation of your embassy appointment after you submitted your DS-160. So it just has all the information there for us. And I will forward that on to the admissions office here at Stanford, who will be writing the letter for you. If you need to hear these instructions repeated, just write me and I'll explain it again. But we've already done a few letters for students who are requesting expedites.
All right. This student is asking, what are the housing options look like this year? Will they have a roommate due to COVID?
Yes, for this coming year, we are going back to full capacity in our dorms. And so all first-year students should expect 1 to 2 roommates. There are some dorms will have, 3 students in a living space. Some dorms have 2 students in that living space. But yes, that is what we're anticipating. If you choose the remote enrollment option, what we're planning is that we are going to assign you to first-year housing along with everyone else in the class. And so the hope is that you can connect with that residential community at the end of summer at the same time that everyone else is, so that when you arrive in winter, you're coming into that space that you would have lived in the fall, and that hopefully you would have started to make some connections with your dorm mates. So that's the plan. I think we also just need to see how many students are choosing this option. I will also say about the fall, if you're going to enroll remotely, options for social connection will probably be limited. And that's just because if campus is going back to an in-person environment, then all those activities will be held here and in person. There will probably be very little that will be offered virtually. And so I think the best opportunities for connection will be among your dorm, on Slack and social media and group me's, and just kind of like that daily interaction that you'll have with your dorm mates. But some large school events will happen in the fall, and those will take place. Those can't really be recreated. So when you come in the winter, it'll just be joining the campus community at that point in the school year, and then getting to participate in everything that is for the rest of that year.
Great. This student is asking if there's going to be any storage space available for students after the first year. So then after they move out of the dorm, can they store their items somewhere?
I'll take that one. Typically, students do leave stuff in storage. It's not on campus. Typically, they rent a storage, what do you call that? Like a storage space or a storage container that gets picked up from campus. So yes, that is possible. You're not expected to take everything home with you and then bring everything back. So it is a possibility.
Just to add that students would pay for that on their own. So it isn't paid for by the university. Yeah.
All right. I know you already talked about it, but can you again remind students what is the process if they decided to do online option? And also, can they start with online and then come in person in the middle of the quarter?
I believe, I don't know the exact process, but I believe that the university will be asking for students to submit their choice of whether they will be online or not online, and take it from there. The answer to whether you can start online and come and be in person, and I apologize, there's construction behind me, of course, is that no, the answer is no. It's not advisable. And I wanted to go back to, and it's not advisable, it's not possible. So you would have to wait until the beginning of the winter quarter when you can come back to campus. The question that I wanted to just raise, not question, the point I wanted to raise about late arrivals, like if you are coming after NSO, as Edith pointed out, there will be an enrollment hold, so you will not be able to enroll in classes. And it is really not advisable to start classes after the first week, or even after the first couple of days of the quarter. So you might want to take that into consideration. You don't want to start behind. So just to weigh in. So even if, as Shalini pointed out, from the immigration standpoint, you have till October 1st, I wouldn't recommend that you try to get enrolled on September 30th, because that you're doing yourself a disservice academically.
Yeah, we couldn't allow it, actually, from an immigration perspective. After October 1st, you have to wait till the next quarter.
All right. If a student apply for a gap year before July 1st and then things changes and decide to come in person, can they change their mind and revoke the gap year petition?
You will have to talk with the admission office about that. So I don't want to speak for them. Again, I'll just say my recommendation right now is if you are even thinking about this option, contact your admission officer now and just let them know that you're thinking about it, so that they're aware of your situation. You don't need to make that decision now, but just let them know, because they can help talk you through your options and also let you know if there's any deadlines. I think everyone's situation is individual and you all have unique circumstances. So let them know what those are. Don't hold that in and wait until the very end. But if you can talk that through them now, they might be able to help give you some really good guidance as well. I think I just want to echo Laura to say every year, this is not during COVID time. So I'm entering, let's see, my 14th year of running an NSO. So we've been chatting with lots of incoming students. And I would say every year students think about gap years and they want to talk this over, and they think about taking some time between high school and college. From the advisor perspective, when students come in from a gap year after having taken a gap year, they have a really good understanding for what they want to do in their time at Stanford. And for advisors and instructors, we really enjoy and appreciate those kinds of conversations. It is a true pleasure to work with students who have taken some time to reflect and come in with a stronger set of goals for what they want. So I just want to echo Laura to say, you're at no disadvantage. I think in the summer, Diana and I talk with a lot of students who are worried that this might reflect poorly on them. For us at Stanford, if we know that you've taken a gap year, there's actually a lot of benefits and things that we see that are strengths for students who have taken some time away. So I want to say that students are always worried, you know, what does this mean? What should I do with my time off? And again, like I said, will it reflect poorly? Not at all. And the students who have chosen to take gap years, actually, those numbers have been increasing over the past few years. Again, COVID aside, that what we see in the numbers are every year more and more students are choosing that option. So I think if you're thinking about it, it's worth it just to have that conversation with your admission officer. All of us know that this is your choice to make. So you know, I want to be clear that we're not steering you in one direction or the other. We just want to let you know that it could be a good option if you decide that that's for you. The other thing that I wanted to say, changing topics, is Laura, I don't think they're going to do a university-wide tracker or ask you to fill out a check-in about your enrollment, whether you're remote or in person. And so for approaching Stanford, I believe that we will probably send out a form that you can complete to let us know if you are considering the remote enrollment option. And again, if you fill out the form, it's not binding, but we'll ask you to let us know, and then we can get an idea, and then probably follow up with you and give you that time to confirm that decision.
All right. The students asking if the students will get discounted tuition if they choose to enroll remotely.
I believe the answer is no. So that's another consideration for everyone as you're thinking about whether or not you want to pay full tuition or have to take classes remotely or to wait until you can come to campus. So the answer is no, there won't be a housing fee, but other than that, tuition will be full.
All right. There is a question about where they can find the recording of this town hall meetings. I believe we will be posting on our website. Is that correct, Shalini or Elsa?
Yeah. So I can even send it around by email. I'll send around the link.
All right, perfect. Can somebody talk about that orientation week for international students? When will be happening? Will be in person, online?
For ISO, we are planning mostly, well, I guess a hybrid program with perhaps a few in-person events, but also online virtual events. And at this point, we think that our start date is September 11th. And that will run through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then on a Wednesday, you start either with NSO, is that correct? So that's
possibly
12,
Tuesday
13.
the 4th. Possibly Tuesday the 14th. That
Tuesday
we're
14th.
still setting, yeah. So NSO could start Tuesday the 14th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could have some dates finalized soon, but we're still working through those details.
Yeah. You know, typically, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but typically everyone arrives to campus in one morning, and there's a 4-hour block, and the entire class moves in at this time. And if you had arrived for ISO, you would have moved in 3 days earlier, but the rest of your class all moves in this 1 4-hour window. And so the change we're making for this year is that we're going to spread move-in across a few days, and that's what the university is trying to figure out right now. And so that's why we haven't been able to announce or confirm a start date yet, because we're still figuring out how much time we need to move in 2,000 Frosh across campus. Yeah, but international students would arrive earlier than that, and we would give you a designated time on that Saturday, September 11th.
Yeah,
we're not sure yet whether parents can come on campus to drop their children off,
Mhm.
right? We're
Mhm.
still,
We're
those
not
details are still being
right.
worked out.
We're not sure whether any families will be able to do that. What we are anticipating is that families who are interested in traveling with their students might do that, and they would book a hotel in the area, stay there, maybe rent a car, and then drive their student to campus for the drop off. But at this time, we don't know whether families would be allowed inside the dorm and to help move those belongings physically into the dorm, or whether campus will be open to walk around. Right now, we have a closed campus.
I just wanted to say that ISO is a really special time because it's just for international students. It gives them a little bit of time to get their feet on the ground. Many of them have never been to campus before. We do things, or we offer programs that help students get used to life in the United States and get used to being a student in the United States. So by the time those 3 days are over, you will have met many, many of your peers who are also international students, but you'll also have gotten a little bit of a sense of how things work in the United States. So we felt it's a while ago. How long has ISO been going on, Shalini?
Oh gosh, decades now, I think. At
Decades.
least.
So I think, yeah, I think people felt that this community really needed that little bit of extra time. And then you head right into NSO, which is a much bigger affair, right? Right,
Yeah.
Edith?
Yeah.
You'll quickly be joined by thousands of US peers. So it's a really nice time just to sort of gel as an international student group.
And what we've heard is that friends that you make at ISO basically are your long-term friends, and you meet them on campus years later and you say, you remember when we did that thing at ISO? So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience for many, many students. And we really hope to be able to join us.
Right. We have a couple questions regarding housing. One student is asking, can they choose where they're going to live? And the other student is asking whether they can bring a cat to a dorm room.
So beginning next Monday, your approaching Stanford forms will open, and in there you'll rank your housing preferences. You don't get to choose your house or your neighborhood, but you'll rank the type of housing that you want. So the majority of Frosh will be in all Frosh housing, and if that's the case, you can indicate if your preferences for all Frosh on a co-ed floor where there will be all male rooms, all men rooms, all women rooms, or you can indicate a preference for a single gender floor. So everyone on that floor would identify as being a woman, or a floor where everyone identifies as being a man. And so you can do that. If you're interested in our theme programming, you can also indicate if you'd like to live in one of the ethnic theme houses. We have academic programs, SLE and Italic, and you can indicate that. And a new theme for Frosh, which is the public service and civic engagement theme. So those are the specific houses that you can indicate. But in terms of the all Frosh houses, you cannot choose a house. In terms of the cat, if you have a service animal, you can work with the Office of Accessible Education. If you want to bring an emotional support animal, you also need to register that. So those are on the housing forms in terms of the website that you go to register your animals. And when you fill out the forms, you'll have that information.
And also bear in mind that if you're bringing, a cat from somewhere else, not from the US, there might be a whole bunch of vaccinations that the cat has to have, and the cat might have to be in quarantine depending on, as someone who has 2 cats, so I've looked into this. So the cat might not be able to join you as soon as you want it, and it might be separated from you for a little bit.
All right. Laura or somebody, if the student is asking if you can put an email address if they want to get the support letter from Stanford for visa appointment.
I believe that was Elsa who mentioned those email addresses. So
I will put it in chat right now.
And I just want to add all these questions that we say we don't have your answers to right now. If you have not yet logged into the Approaching Stanford course in Canvas, we have an international students community discussion board. And so that's where we anticipate posting updates, answers to questions. So throughout the summer, wherever there's more information that we can share, if we have forms to fill out, that's where we'll put it. And as a discussion board, you can also post your questions there and we'll answer your questions on an ongoing basis. So if you have not yet taken a look at that, that's where the info will be. And I see that because there's so many questions about timeline and arrival dates, we'll also go in there and add some more information around the calendar.
I also see a repeat question about whether it's a vaccination question. So the question is, will quarantine on arrival be required for all international students or only for students who are not fully vaccinated? Are we waiting for Vaden to make that decision, Edith? Or
no, I believe that quarantine would only be required if you're unvaccinated. So I think that the guidance out right now is if you are vaccinated, you do not have to have any kind of a travel quarantine. Stanford, at move-in, Stanford may still give you a COVID test and have you do a quick test at check-in. And so that's what we've done this year is when you get your room key, you take a quick COVID test and then you get those results, I think within 24 hours. So they may still do that in the fall.
Great. Yeah, we asked a majority of questions, I believe. There are a lot of questions about the vaccine, moving dates. But one student was asking if it is possible to move into dorm before the moving date.
No, so you can move in when you're approved to move in. If you are vaccinated, then we anticipate your arrival for ISO would be September 11th. If you're unvaccinated, then we anticipate an earlier arrival for you so that you can do a travel quarantine here on campus. And so that's the information that will be coming in terms of how to notify us and register for that so that we can have your room ready to go early. Those are all details to be worked out. So information will be forthcoming.
Great. One question about the emotional support animal. Can they still live on a Frosh housing or will they be living somewhere else like graduate housing?
Yes, we do have undergraduate housing where you can live with emotional support animals. That housing is limited to certain buildings though. So it's not that emotional support animals can be in all the dorms across campus. Those will be limited to a subset of dorms and I don't know that we've determined which particular buildings those are, but you should expect that. If you have a service animal, that's different and service animals can be in any dorm on campus.
All right. It's pretty much cover most of the questions, unless people have a different types of questions that we already cover. Okay, so
Yeah, please,
go ahead.
just please continue. Oh, that's great. Diana has posted some contact information in the chat. If you have very individual questions that's you think are unique to your situation, then it's probably best to email your particular situation to us. If you have general questions around how processes work, when our timelines, all of that, please continue to post those questions for us. And you can do that in the international students discussion board in Canvas. It is actually really helpful. Students find to see each other's questions and to see those answers. So I encourage you to post that broadly. And if you're not sure, is this an individual question or a question for everyone, go ahead and post that. And if it turns out that it's something very unique to you, we'll follow up by email with you. So don't worry about having to figure out whether to post or not. Go ahead and post your questions and everyone finds those useful.
All right. One question is if there's going to be financial aid available for having pets. I don't know if it's emotional support pets or service.
I don't think so, but I think your financial aid is calculated based on your needs, your financial needs, and that would be something that the financial aid office will determine. I have not seen in all my years in higher education that a pet qualifies as something that is an additional need. So I believe the answer is no, but it's a financial aid question.
And I just wanted to remind students that we are recording this town hall meeting. So once we are done, we're gonna post the recording on our website, and also we are going to send the recording to you via email as well.
I just also want to urge students, if you haven't submitted your request for an I-20, please do so soon in Bechdel Connect, and there are instructions sent to you by undergraduate admissions. And if you're confused, please write to me at new_international_students@stanford.edu, and I'll send you the instructions.
All right.
All
Is
right,
there anything else that people want to add, or any more questions?
Well, this is very timely. We're right at the end of that 1 hour. We're at 9:28. If we have no more questions, once again, thank you all for joining us today, for sharing your questions and your concerns. And I also want to thank our partners from around Stanford for joining us and providing these answers to our students. And I guess that's it for now. We hope to maybe have another one of these town halls later this summer to see what other ways we can be of assistance to you. So thank you all for joining. Have a good rest of your day and hope to see you on campus soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.